So, Bob, when I was looking at, I have to say that it's been a long time since I actually had to look up a word, and homologation is a word I had to look up, and that was in your title. So that's quite a stunning title.
Other than questions on my odd last name, that's the other one.
It's not Holyfield. Well.
It's not Holyfield. It is Holy Cross, believe it or not, and it's all one word, and no direct religious affiliation or what have you. Right. But anyway, homologation in a nutshell is really kind of a global term that's used to describe how products are introduced into the market through various regulatory bodies and the approvals they have to go through. It's more of a term that's used outside of the U.S. In terms of the process that you go through for certification.
So are you the guy who negotiated the tailpipe standards here in the United States?
Well, I've had a lot of active role over the last several years in tailpipe standards under multiple administrations, and we've seen it go from one end to the other. And yes, we're actively watching the latest ones that are about to be introduced, and obviously looking to the future as we move towards 2030 and really a whole nother landscape of what those standards will start to look like.
So Ford has been rolling out some very aggressive electrification announcements.
Yes.
You want to tell us about them and talk about a little bit about?
Well, how much time do we have?
Yeah,
because I can go on, but
well,
no, I'm just
yes,
kidding.
we do. We have.
Yeah, no, I know we've got some time.
We do not have 3 hours and 30 minutes.
No, fair enough.
Or 3 minutes and 26 seconds.
No, thanks, Karen. I mean, it is really an exciting time. I mean, in my 28 years at Ford, this has really been the most energetic, no pun intended, in terms of what we're doing. So yes, we've had a lot of announcements recently, but more importantly, we actually now have the vehicles to actually show people and have them experience it. So the talk is really over. We have been on this journey in terms of the vision for this, really led by our chairman, Bill Ford, who's been one of the early voices in this space around what we need to do because of the urgency of climate change and the environment. He was a bit of a lone wolf for a long time in our industry, but it's been fantastic to see this vision come to life. So we have announced some aggressive plans in terms of where we're headed. By 2030, we do expect, about half of our new vehicle sales to be fully electric. That's globally. We've announced in Europe with our restructuring there and our more coordinated portfolio that will be 100% full battery electric vehicle sales for passenger vehicles by 2030. So this is a significant leap for us in terms of transforming our business. Our plan is not to just dabble in it, but to lead. That's our legacy. We put the world on wheels. We didn't necessarily invent the automobile, but we see this as our chance to really bring this to the masses, to not only get the benefits for the environment and to help mitigate climate change, but really transform for consumers at all levels how we do this. So just quickly on the products, and you got the slide up, we introduced our Mustang Mach-E last year. The response to this has been tremendous. Another one of the favorite questions I get or points of discussion is, how did you call it a Mustang? Is this diluting the Mustang brand or whatever? And it's been fun as people have really experienced to see that it really is worthy of the Mustang name. It's as fast. It's got the instant torque that you all know comes with EVs, the performance, the ride, the handling. It's worthy.
Is it loud?
It is. It can be. You have a choice. You can dial up different levels of sound, which is a lot of fun with the vehicles. But it's really been a fun vehicle.
Turn the radio up and then you turn the tailpipe up. Noise? Is that where the noise is coming
from? We've got quiet mode. We've got unbridled mode. There's different ways that you can really customize it, which is fun, and it's one of the benefits of the technology that comes with EVs. And then of course, our F-150, our crown jewels of the company. We've got the Lightning coming next year. We've just started production of our first levels of production prototypes, and the demand for this has been off the charts. We finally, I think, as of yesterday, had to cut the reservations off. Over 200,000 people have put a deposit down for this vehicle.
The Lightning was 24 hours. It was a stunning number within
It was. It crashed the systems and everything else when it was debuted, and we went through the same experience when we introduced the Bronco and even the Mach-E as well. And what we do find is a significant majority of these reservations convert into actual orders. So it's really exciting. And a lot of these folks that we're seeing are new to Ford. About 70% are folks that maybe in the past hadn't even considered a pickup. Maybe it didn't fit in terms of the image or, from a fuel economy standpoint or what have you. but these are folks that are seeing a whole new opportunity in terms of the benefits and services in addition to traditional pickup customers. This will be a no-compromise vehicle. This is not just about zero emissions. This is about utility and function and showing that we can do everything in addition to providing zero emissions and all the other benefits. And it's obviously going to serve both retail and fleet customers. And then the third vehicle we're showing on the slide is the E-Transit. You know, Ford is the commercial vehicle leader globally. This is a huge market. We have a huge presence in this in terms of the variety of customers we serve with commercial vehicles. The electric transit is going to be a game changer for fleets, and that is starting production this year. It sometimes doesn't get quite the sexiness or attention of the Mach-E or the F-150, but this is really about where the rubber meets the road for folks and what it means for businesses.
And where are you going to build these vehicles?
We're going to be building these vehicles all over. So the Mach-E right now is built in Mexico. It serves global markets, so that's kind of a hub right now that's easy for us to ship to multiple markets. We also just started local production of the Mach-E in China. The F-150 Lightning is going to be built in our home of Dearborn, Michigan at our Rouge complex. We've got a converted electric vehicle center where we're going to be building those. The E-Transit in the U.S. is going to be built in Kansas City. And then we've got plans for a whole other generation of electric vehicles to come with the investments that we've made in new facilities that we talked about earlier this year. We're building a 3,600-acre, 6-square-mile Blue Oval City complex, as we call it, outside of Memphis, Tennessee. It's the single biggest investment we've made as a company. It's going to be the single biggest facility we've ever had. It's one of the first times in a long time, over 50 years, that we've put a shovel into the ground on a new greenfield site. And in my world, on sustainability opportunities we're going to have, not just to produce these zero-emission vehicles, but to do it in a clean and sustainable way with all the green power that's going to be available and all the different opportunities in the production process. It's really a game-changing opportunity. So
I'd love to talk about the F-150, and because you mentioned game-changing, and
Yes.
I am a farm girl at heart, and I feel like that F-150 is a game-changer for electric vehicles sort of across the board. I mean, obviously, fleet electrification is going to be driving a lot of our discussions about transportation electrification, but 5 years ago, people were saying, yeah, okay, electric vehicles work, but they're never going to work for rural America, and they're, I'm interested in who your customers are already and what you're hearing from rural America. I will say that yesterday, is she here? I was talking to someone from La Plata Rural Co-op, and she said that they have ordered 3 for their operations already.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's a great question, Karen. I mean, I think what we are seeing is really quite a diverse mix of customers, whether it's urban, rural, retail, fleet. And, I think a lot of customers who are initially looking at this vehicle have in mind what their solutions are going to need to be, right? They're not going into this thinking, gosh, I have no idea where I'm going to charge or how I'm going to work this. But as our experience with the Mach-E has showed us, and I think with the Lightning as well, there are a variety of solutions that are going to be out there. So yes, in-home charging for folks in more urban areas is obviously the most effective solution or the easiest, so to speak. But, you can charge these vehicles in a variety of different ways, whether you have an at-home charging box or, the fact that these can plug into, traditional 120-volt outlets. Now, yes, it takes a long time to charge them. But as we continue to also build out the charging network around the country, there's going to be solutions there. We are also looking at different solutions around depot charging and other solutions for customers that have fleets. We acquired a company earlier this year called Electrify, based in California, that can provide kind of one-stop shop for fleet charging services or for customers, farmers in rural areas that have different needs. But I think, as obviously we collectively work together to provide more options for customers, and as these early customers come in greater numbers than we forecasted, we talk about it every day, how we can go faster, meet this capacity. I think that's going to be the evidence, the proof points. It's just as people see this, it's going to happen.
So how have your dealers responded to these plans to really transform your fleet?
So the dealers have been great. I mean, of course, as much as we've gone to a lot of digital services for how customers can shop for vehicles and spec them out and the different options customers have in terms of how they maintain their vehicles, folks still want to get in and touch and experience the vehicles. Our dealer network has served us well, and it's been a mainstay. It's the face of our brand and our organization. So yes, there's changes that they've had to make, obviously at a minimum, to be able to provide charging at the dealerships, technician training for how to work on these vehicles, sales people having to understand what customers need to know before they leave the dealership with these vehicles. But it's been real exciting. A lot of them have been quick to jump on board, and our biggest challenge with the dealers right now is getting them the product, right? And we all know about some of the different constraints that are there, with some of the supply chain issues and that. But no, they're a great partner, and they're going to
Because they are a sort of conservative group generally, and have been some active participants in previous debates over fuel efficiency.
Sure. Well, and so have OEMs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, this is really a different game we're in now. So
Yeah.
we've all had to kind of make this shift and this adjustment.
And the customer coming into a Ford dealership is going to have to think about. They're going to be asking a lot of different questions than they would if they're buying an internal combustion engine. They're going to be asking about charging. They're going to be asking about what it means for their electricity bill, about rebates. So that must be a big set of things that you have to have your dealers prepared to discuss.
It's a great point. There's a lot of different pieces to it, a lot of information out there. I think the good news about it is most of it is really geared towards helping those customers. So right, whether it's what rebates do I qualify for, what incentives are available in my particular city or state, can I get assistance for installing a wall box in my home? Is my local utility going to work with me in terms of understanding what the rates are going to be? I think one of the things that is going to make the biggest difference is, in addition to these vehicles being, obviously high tech in terms of their electric drivetrains and everything, these are software digital machines on wheels. And so the software is going to help guide customers as well in terms of, how to find charging, when's the most optimal time to charge, what are the rates. So there's a lot of different pieces like that have to come together. And I think, again, a lot of the folks we're going to see, when I say early on, I'm talking into still the hundreds of thousands of customers initially, they're embracing this. They're recognizing that, yeah, there's some questions out there, but they also see the opportunity that this presents. And, for a lot of the folks I've talked with, just the fact that this is a better vehicle all the way around. So it's not just about how it's going to reduce their operating costs and, how they're not going to be dependent upon, gasoline or what happens in the fluctuations of oil prices and that. They're going to see that overall, this is a much better product for them. And so some of these things that may pose initial questions, we're going to help them as quickly as possible find the answers to that.
So are these cars that you anticipate rolling out next year and the year after, are they ready to be grid integratable? And it's just a question about software, or are you going to have to re-engineer, the 28, 29 product line?
They're ready. And, one of the other things that we're excited about, and we've seen this actually play out even with hybrid vehicles, is the fact that vehicles can interface with the grid, right? We can have bidirectional charging. The F-150 is going to have that capability when it comes out. If these are energy storage devices, this presents a whole new equation for business opportunities for us and energy providers. So, an F-150 Lightning charged up, if the power goes out, can power a home, for up to 3 days or more. So as you think about what that can mean, not only for emergency situations when power goes out, but how it can power job sites and do other things, especially for fleet customers and others. It's a whole nother equation for what this means in terms of functionality of the vehicle itself. So yes, there's all kinds of software that has to come along with this. And Josh from Greenlots and I were talking earlier. I mean, these companies that help provide interfaces and software that can help the vehicle talk to charging stations, or software that manages optimal, charging solutions and times. It is going to be a totally digital experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we spent a lot of time talking about yesterday, was visibility for the utility and knowing how many of these vehicles are going to be out there, because the impacts on the grid itself, both in demand and grid controls, are going to be pretty significant. And I would imagine in rural America, if you get a couple farmers next to each other who've got these big trucks that they're going to charge all the time, that there will be some implications for the utility there.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, kind of working primarily on vehicle environmental regulations and whether and also alternative fuels. We've gone through all kinds of iterations, whether it's been biofuels, flex fuel vehicles, dual fuel vehicles, all these different fits and starts. And I'm not saying we don't need a variety of solutions for a number of different reasons, including energy security, but this is happening. And the vehicles are coming, and we're past the tipping point. There's no chicken and egg anymore. So the signal's there now, and now we've got some of the legislation that's backing this up. It's time to get on with it. And I think it presents an opportunity for all of us. So, part of what we also have to do, and we work on this, whether it's with dealers or others, is busting some of these myths. Where's the electricity coming from? It makes it dirtier than an internal combustion engine. It doesn't. The primary emissions from a vehicle over its lifetime are when it's on the road operating, and it's zero emissions when it's on the road. And we're going to get the grid even cleaner, and we've got commitments around using renewable electricity in our own facilities, and we know that's building out across the country. As far as the durability of the grid and does it go down and overload and all that, we have to fix that for our own security, right, and emergency response and other things. So as we do that, well, and the vehicles will have a place as well.
Yeah. And so how much do you think your EV line will be purchased by fleets? Do you have projections on the percentage of fleet, not just the e-transit, but sort of your sedans and the trucks too?
Yep, it's a great question, and obviously the commercial e-transit is targeted particularly at fleets, but we're even seeing fleets, including police and others, looking at Mach-E, which is kind of fun too. So I think it's going to be a combination. We just announced earlier this week a partnership with Salesforce in a software cloud-based platform called Visor, which is designed to help fleet customers, manage all their everyday tasks, from how they process invoices, scheduling, other things. That when we kind of did the research to understand, what some of the opportunities are there. There are well over 600,000 small and medium-sized businesses that operate fleets, vehicles like this. And they're looking for this. They can have their dedicated solutions that they'll know will be reliable. So we see this being a huge opportunity for fleets, and that's, I think, where we're going to quickly see, whether it's in the U.S. and Europe as well, it really take off.
Another theme from yesterday is that there's a little nervousness in the time frame between how quickly you've already moved and made these investments,
sure,
and particularly around fleets, and the time frame that's going to take to get the grid ready for these changes. And not that we are not confident that we have the power and that we can do it, just
right.
that there's going to be, this transition might be a little bumpy depending on where you are because of this difference in, a customer doesn't have to go to the regulator to, make the investments, but the utility has a process that's very formal.
Yes. Well, I think, again, it's always like with any of these types of transformations or, moves that require a number of different parts, and, before any of them can really get going and in sync, it's always what's that first signal that sets the rest of it off, right? And that's where, I kind of come back to, I think it's everybody's resolved and understands, especially because of the investments and now with the products on the road, it is coming. Now, when we talk about our goals around, half of our new sales by 2030, we know there's going to be challenges with that. But the signal and the investment up front, because of our long lead times, is designed to show we're committed to that. And so whether it is, grid resilience and capability, whether it's the overall supply chain in our industry for raw materials and some of the things, that we've been talking about, there's going to be a number of challenges. But again, I think collectively, as we always say, working together, we can find these solutions. But usually one of the biggest tension points in starting any of it is people say, well, before we really want to, can do this, we need to know that this is going to happen, or what about that? The policy has to align with it, and I was talking with folks earlier. Obviously with what's happening in the U.S. legislatively, that's a great start. But we also need consistency in that policy, because we've seen that happen where you get, the politics involved, and, for the significant investments we collectively have to make, we need stability. And whether it's the urgency of climate change or other things, we think the tide is turning, internationally, even in the U.S., that the policies are coming together to support us all as well.
But you didn't just make these investments based on negotiations over the fuel efficiency standards.
No, these are not regulatory cars or what have you. These are not compliance cars, as we'd like to say. These cars are designed for a market that's pulling for them, that as they understand how the technology has improved, that they can, not just provide zero emissions, but all the other functionality and performance that customers desire. This is a race competitively for a market that we are seeing every day is incremental for us, as I mentioned earlier, as new customers. So, it's going to be interesting to see as we get between now and 2030 and we have this initial rise and the excitement around it, does it sustain and all that? We believe it will, as the costs keep coming down and with everything we're doing to have the capacity to diversify our supply base. We're really excited about where this is headed.
So you mentioned Electrify, that your acquisition of Electrify, and you think about Tesla's model in the very beginning, which was, they're going to build the car, but they know they also have to build and own the charging station too. Are you
the Betamax of charging?
Right. So what's your model around your business into EV charging infrastructure?
Yeah, it's something else we were talking about earlier. I mean, for us, it's about putting the customer first and making sure they have as much access to as much different charging solutions that are available. So on the kind of the retail network, we have partnered with Greenlots, their software-based platform that helps connect vehicles with different charging outlets around the country. We have what we call our Ford Pass, or a Blue Oval charging network that's available to customers. It's all on the phone. It's a software-based tool that provides seamless integration. As you pull up to a charger, where the chargers are in your area. You can pay for it all right there. Much like satellite radio, our vehicles initially come with a certain amount of free charging at these stations. So it's a combination of partnerships, using the standard SAE connector that is the one that's predominantly in the market. I think right now we're up to over 16,000 charging locations that our customers have access to, 60,000 different charge points when you look at the different availability of those. There's more that has to be done, but the model is going to obviously be different than just a gas station on every corner. And again, my own experience having had the Mach-E for a year, and most of my charging is done at home. But when I go, from lower Michigan to the northern part of Michigan, 250-mile trip, I'm finding most of the time I can get there on a charge, and then I plug into my regular standard outlet at my cottage. And as long as I'm not driving all over the place, which I don't want to do for 3 days, I want to sit and relax. It's ready to go. But there's, I know where my charging stations are, and I know where I have access to it. And I think that's just going to continue to grow. So, whether it's the partnerships we have to give our customers access today, more dedicated solutions like Electrify with fleets. In Europe, we actually did a partnership with other OEMs on a charging network called Ionity, which is building out rapidly as well. And then we'll see as far as what other solutions may be needed, especially now that the policies are coming that are making a greater incentive to invest in that space.
What you mentioned earlier, the Ford was responsible for getting a Ford in every garage.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about the range of products that you have and whether there's going to be opportunity for people with lower income to participate in this revolution?
It's a great question. We talk a lot about this just transition and what that's going to mean. And for Ford, it is our legacy. Without sounding altruistic, whatever, it's about affordability and how do we bring this to the masses. A lot of the areas that are most underserved, in terms of income and ability to make purchases like this are also some of the ones most challenged, obviously, from an air quality standpoint. So it's an important piece of it. The Lightning is going to start at just under $40,000. And people can say, oh yeah, but by the time you spec it out and all, of course there's going to be options to have, a number of different features.
Big stereo.
Exactly, or whatever the case may be. But the idea is, with our scale and with our know-how and how to do this, we believe that this is going to be something sooner rather than later we are going to be able to bring, quote, to the masses. And that's why when we say we're going to lead the electrification revolution, people say, well, Tesla's the one that's, how can you say this? Watch this space. I mean, this is what we do. We know how to scale, and that's our opportunity here.
What's the base model of an F-150 going to look like in terms of the capabilities?
It's going to have, when you look at the product alone and the frunk and everything in terms of its hauling and towing capability, those types of performance features will come standard. Trim levels, a couple, battery options, some of the other performance characteristics, different software-based features that you can add on to the vehicle. It's going to be a variety of things. But that base model of, that starts at about $40,000 is going to have a lot of things just by definition, right? Whether it's, it's the zero emissions, it's the torque, it's the storage, it's the, the base software system in the vehicle. And I think we're going to find that, those models are going to serve a lot of customers. And then we'll see how many, spec it up and trip it out or whatever we want to call it, to make it a lot more fun and enjoyable experience.
So I have one last question before I open
Sure.
it up to the audience. What's your projection, or maybe you've actually laid out a line for transforming from lithium-ion batteries to solid state or some other kind of battery?
Yeah, that is a really interesting question because, battery chemistry is obviously really key to this, whether it's, what are the different opportunities in terms of packaging and cell density so that, you're not compromising any of the other, features you need in a vehicle from, storage and passenger carrying capacity. What are the features in the chemistry that help provide longer range? What are the features that help provide greater durability or resilience? So right now, yes, the predominant chemistry is around, nickel, cobalt, manganese, and lithium ion. Solid state has an opportunity in terms of getting us longer range out of a smaller battery. It has thermal characteristics that are appealing in terms of managing the thermal environment around batteries. But there's other chemistries as well. Lithium iron phosphate, LFP, is another chemistry that may provide an opportunity for a lower cost solution. It's not as dependent upon some raw materials as much like nickel or what have you. So I think it's going to be a variety of things. Solid state does offer an opportunity. We've invested in a company called Solid Power. BMW's invested as well. So we're keeping our eyes and options in all of it. But that is moving really fast too. But it's all good for the customer because it means lower cost, better performance. And as far as raw material supply, the more we can diversify that, find those domestically as well, so we don't end up in having another energy crisis where we're dependent upon materials and things from the rest of the world, especially in conflicted areas. That's a real issue in my arena as well. That is top of mind.
Great. All right. Well, I'm sure there must be some questions from the audience.
Joe Franz from GE. How far are we from real self-driving, either taxis or cars?
They're on the road today. So yeah, no, I say a little tongue in cheek or what have you, but I mean the technology is being demonstrated as hopefully folks are seeing and know. So the full self-driving, full autonomy, what we call level 5. The technology's there. Ford's partnering with a company called Argo AI that has the LiDAR technology and all those pieces there. In my arena that I work in, we've got some policy issues to work out in terms of how we get these vehicles certified. With federal motor vehicle safety standards, how states and localities approach these. But we do have demonstration fleets. We're working with Lyft and other companies on how we can start to have actual consumers experience these technologies. When does it become a volume solution? Our push right now that we see is probably a combination of vehicles that are moving goods as much as moving people. And again, that's our wheelhouse when it comes to commercial vehicles. So yeah, small volumes right now. I think over the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to see more and more of it for sure. But the interesting thing, not to belabor this thing, is the technologies in between, right? What we call level 3, level 2 type, modes where you can get into some type of hands-free driving or what have you. It still requires obviously somebody behind the wheel, but that's a part of the transition as well.
Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Glickman with the Center for Sustainable Energy.
Hi, Karen.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. I mean, the Ford F-150 Lightning is really a dynamic and exciting offering. And one of the pieces that I think folks have found so exciting about it is obviously the brand. And that the F-150, no need to tell you, best-selling vehicle year after year after year. So my question has to do with those legacy Ford F-150 fossil fuel vehicle buyers. When you're showing 75% of the customers are new to Ford, how are you thinking about converting the existing F-150 buyers to the Lightning F-150 buyers to really leverage that brand?
Yes, thank you. That's a fantastic question. And, you know, I liken this a bit to when we took the F-150 to an all aluminum body structure, took 700 pounds out of it, and people said, you know, again, what are you doing? This is your, you know, heart and soul of your company. This is the best-selling truck and all this. And we showed that we could do that and still provide all the other functionality that those customers demand. And we haven't missed a beat on that respect. Now, going all electric versus, you know, going to aluminum is obviously a significant leap, but we think we're going to do it the same way. And that's why our strategy is different than some of the others. We are going right after the heart and soul of our company. These are brands all in and of themselves, right? Mustang, F-Series, Transit. If you can show that you can do it there, where these customers aren't going to compromise, that's how we're gonna do it. So yeah, there's a lot of legacy customers. Maybe doesn't sound the best way to say it, and it's going to take time because we're obviously still selling, you know, ICE F-150s today, very efficient ones, by the way. Our hybrid, which is a non-plug-in F-150, again is you know, way outselling the capacity we have for it, again because of the functionality it provides, not just the efficiency. So I think that's really it. It's going to be more about not just the energy efficiency these products provide, but the overall experience is going to make a difference.
There's a question over here.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I was out of the room for a little bit, so if you covered this, just skip me.
Who are you?
Huh?
Who are you?
Oh, League for VAT Energy Innovations. But first, a shout out, because during the polar vortex, you know, I know that Ford was active in helping to get those hybrids out that have a way to discharge energy to load and do vehicle to load and really help a lot of people out. So my question is, with the Lightning, what are the capabilities around vehicle to home? Because my understanding is that it has a load following or a load forming inverter built in and could maybe do that function.
It does. That is an option that is going to be available. It will have that capability for bidirectional charging. So, you know, when it's fully charged or what have you, and it can provide, you know, the metric, an example we use around it can power a home fully for up, you know, 3 days or more. So it's not an insignificant, you know, capability. So yes, between what's the hardware and software on the vehicle and what's needed, you know, on the receiving end has to be there, but it will have that capability. And then of course what we call Pro Power on board, which you're talking about, that we have like with our F-150 hybrid, you know, where you just basically, it works as an on-site generator, right? All you got to do is plug into it, you know, that provides a significant amount of energy as well. So it's a big opportunity.
Do you have to redo your fuse box in order to have a shut-off capability like you do with a generator now?
I'm not as close to what the ins and outs of that piece are. I mean, yes, I think just like with anything else, right, you've got to have some type of interface that, you know, it has to be able to be compatible with. But I don't know that it's all that different for what you otherwise have to do if you have like a whole home generator or something else, right? Yeah. This is just a little bit more multi-purpose.
Yeah. I think we have time for one more question, and over here, or you got the mic, okay.
Yep. Stephanie Weisenbach with the Iowa
Stephanie.
Energy Office, and
Yes.
I have been an electric vehicle driver for about 4 years now.
Great.
And I've learned how to be conscious about how my charging habits and my driving habits affect my battery health. Is that something that you're seeing as a need for consumer education with these new models, or are you intending for your software and intelligence tools to help take care of some of that? And kind of how do you see that affecting the consumer and what you're planning to do?
It's a big deal. And yes, I mean, just in terms of overall consumer education, some of it is also just myth busting, but you're right. Through a lot of the software solutions on the phone, you know, what we call our Ford Pass app. And like I said, so I've got my Mach-E, right? I live in Michigan. The temperature over the last few weeks has dropped, you know, below freezing. So it reminds me Every time I, turn the vehicle off, hey, it's cold outside, make sure you plug it in. Even though you're at, 90% charge, whatever, plug it in, keep it there. Okay. It also tells me very transparently that instead of the, 280 miles of range I have in June, my range on any given day is going to vary based on, how the vehicle learned I drove over the last few days, what the temperature conditions are. And it amazes me how it really adjusts. So, I think that's the good news too, is customers will know every time they turn the vehicle on, just what's there. There's all kinds of tools on the vehicle that you can have fun with in terms of how to maximize the way you drive or what have you. Off the record, I like having fun seeing, what difference it makes when I'm, driving more aggressively or whatever. Does it really run down that much more? What is it like when, the other thing I should know these things more directly than just when I experience it. But these vehicles, the climate control is instant. I mean, the way they heat up and everything, and it's like, geez, that's it. So, but then I like to see, well, what happens if I keep the heater off, even when it's really cold? Is the range going to go down as more? So, yes, education. But again, I think as people see and touch and feel and experience, they're going to realize that while it varies maybe more in some cases based on how they drive or the temperature, they'll be able to know exactly what's in front of them because of the way the software learns and adapts. That makes sense.
Well, thank you very much for coming in from
thanks
Michigan,
for having me.
joining
Yes,
us
this was
here.
great,
It was
Karen,
great.
and
So join
thanks
me
for
in
the
thanking
opportunity.
Bob.
It's great to be with everybody. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.